Hello everyone, this is Jonathan Little for Weekly Poker Hand. We are here with the 11th week, and today we're going to be reviewing a hand from the $10 million guaranteed event at the Hard Rock in Florida. It was a very big tournament, and it was an incredibly soft tournament, which I suppose should be expected. Anytime you get a gigantic prize pool, it usually means there are a lot of pretty weak players, so it's always fun when that happens. In this hand, if the replayer ever starts working, there it goes. In this hand, we have ace-9 offsuit in the hijack seat. And notice that I have about 30 big blinds. We have 60,000 chips at 1,000, 2,000. A player on the button called, and the small blind also calls, and the big blind calls. So 4 ways. We see a flop of ace, king, 4 with 2 spades. It is worth mentioning that the player in the small blind is blatantly crazy. There was a hand recently where someone raised, he called with 6-2 offsuit on the button. Someone went all in for 30 big blinds. First guy folded, and he snap called with the 6-2 offsuit. And a 6-2 offsuit beat ace-king. So the guy in the small blind is bonkers. He's playing every hand, doing bizarre stuff. He does not like to fold. He's one of the type of guys who you really want at your table. You know, a lot of players are sort of afraid to play with players like that because, like, oh, this guy is dangerous. But in reality, that is the exact player you want at your table. So in this hand, he elects to lead into me for 10,000. Remember, the pot's 4 ways. He leads for 10,000 into the 18,000 or 19,000 chip pot on the flop of ace of spades, king of spades, 4 of diamonds, ace king 9, ace king 4. I have ace 9. I don't know why I keep saying there's 9 on the flop. Ace king 4. I have 1 spade or 2 spades on board. So he bets 10,000. And at this point, with only 55,000 behind, I think shoving is certainly a reasonable option. I definitely want to protect my hand against the various draws. But at the same time, I'm not sure if I shove, if this guy will call off with anything worse than a king. I definitely think he'll call with a king because he's pretty crazy. But at the same time, if he's sitting here with 5-3 offsuit or something, which I think he certainly could have, I definitely want to keep him in the pot. And it's important to recognize that I do want to keep my opponent in the pot at this point. I'm not trying to make him fold. So I guess another concern is, can I get additional value from a king by calling? Like, will I miss out on value by calling versus shoving? And I think if he has a king, we're going to get the stacks in anyways. And if he has a worse ace, we're going to get the stacks in. Obviously, if he has a better ace or a better hand than mine, we're going to get the stacks in. So really, I'm trying to figure out, how do I keep my opponent in this pot or get full value whenever he has just absolute air? When he's sitting here with just the absolute worst hands, how do I get value from him? And I think that the play is to simply call. Also, if the player in seat 7, the player on the button, decides to shove, I think I could realistically fold. That may be a little bit tight, but I think that's probably going to be a smart play. So I call, and we see the turn heads up. Turns the 3 of spades. So he checks. So now the board is ace, king, 4-3, 3 spades. I have the 9 of spades. The pot's 39,000, and I have 46,000 behind. So at this point, I have to ask myself, if I bet, will he call with his absolute air? And, I mean, like, say he has 8-7 offsuit, right? He's probably not going to call. So I think what I need to do in this scenario is to check behind the turn with the intention of calling any bet on the river, on pretty much any river. I don't really see a river I could fold on. Even if the river's a 5 or 2, putting a 4 card straight up, it's so likely that my opponent's just losing his mind and doing something silly, because this guy really is blatantly crazy. Remember, this is not a regular tight aggressive player. This is a blatantly crazy player. So I like checking behind. I think I could also bet small. I think if I do bet, I need to bet small. Maybe 12,000 or so, and I'd be betting that for value, and also it's not really protection, but it sort of is to protect against various hands like 5-4 that have outs or 6-4 that have outs, because he's going to call those hands and I'm going to get value. So it's really just a value bet, because I do expect to get called by numerous worse hands. There's a slight distinction between value betting and protection betting. When you're betting to protect, you're betting with a hand you expect your opponent to fold with if you bet, but at the same time, he has plenty of equity. So I'm not really protecting against anything on this board, because if he even has 7-6 for a gut shot, he's probably going to call. So really, I'm just betting for value. If I was to shove, going all in, that would then be a protection bet because then I am trying to make him fold some hands that have equity, like maybe 10 of spades, 9 of diamonds. But that's certainly not my concern in my hand because I have what's probably the best draw and I have what's probably the best hand. So I'm really just betting purely for value. That being said, I think checking's probably right, just to give this guy one more opportunity to bluff the river. River's a 3 of diamonds, which is unfortunate because now I lose to... we chop with all the aces now because we have ace, 3-3, king. I now lose to the random 5-3, 3-2... I guess 5-3 and 3-2. And I'm not sure he will value bet with a king on the river at this point. So now I definitely don't think there's any reason to shove. I think calling is the only play that makes any sense. And like I said, this guy is so crazy that I think I have a fairly easy call on the river when he bets 20,000 into the 39,000 chip pot. I don't think there's much I could do in that scenario. So I do call, and he shows the 9 of clubs, 3 of clubs, which is a little bit unfortunate because on the flop he was betting with almost no equity. He needed runner threes to win. On the turn he improved a little bit, but at the same time he gave me the flush draw. So I guess it actually just purely improved him because another spade cannot come that gives me a flush because I have the 9 spades in my hand and the 3 spades is on the board. But then he got the other 3 on the river. So notice that this hand ran out about as bad as possible, right? Well, obviously because I lost. But notice that even when it did run out terribly, I didn't get stacked. And I kept my opponent in when he was drawing to almost no outs. And you have to recognize that sometimes when you do make a point to keep your opponent in the hand, sometimes they are going to outdraw you. And when they do, that's okay. You can't be too unhappy about that. I feel like a lot of players would really beat themselves up for this hand. But I look at this hand as a pure success because I think this guy probably would have tried to bluff me if he did not turn equity. Meaning like if he missed a 3 or a 9 on the turn, he probably would have just tried to bluff me. And especially whenever I check the turn, he's going to think I have a king or think I have nothing and just go for it. So even though this hand did not work out for me, I think I played it about as perfectly as possible, and I'm very happy with it. If you guys have any questions or comments about this hand, definitely let me know. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Leave your comments. I love to hear from you guys because it lets me know that you guys like the podcast. Also, definitely give it a good review on iTunes. Definitely check that out. And also, check out my blog. I try to post good educational content on the blog, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And the way I know that you guys enjoy it is by seeing your comments and getting your feedback. So let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. And I look forward to talking to you guys next time.